Private schools urged to get licensed in order to benefit from COVID-19 relief cash. That and more stories in Abuli today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nhabe Kajur, but first are the headlines. The party with most MPs to elect President, NRM MPs, say they are ready. Anti-coup activists continue protests in Sudan. In our sports today, maximum security in Cameroon Anglophone war-torn region. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Africa Today starts with one of our top stories. The members of the ruling National Resistance Movement caucus have said they are ready to kickstart consultations with stakeholders on the rumored constitutional amendments that will give MPs the mandate to dictate who becomes the president. Our reporter has more.
The NRM Chief Whip Thomas Tayebwa said that although they have not received such proposal to the caucus, they are fully aware of the benefits of such a system and are appreciative of its advantages. Earlier, the Minister of Agriculture, Frank Tumwebaze, said there was nothing wrong with amending the constitution through a participatory consultation process. Tumwebaze said that there needs to be a sober debate on the merits and demerits of the parliamentary system without prejudicing. A new plan is being mooted by the ruling government to amend the constitution and have the political party with the highest number of members of parliament decide who the president will be. According to source, this plan could even take off with the next elections in 2026. Information that TV Africa has attained confirms that the role to have this amendment done has been placed on the shoulders of Deputy Attorney General Jackson Kafuzi. Already preparations are underway and a Constitutional Review Commission has been tipped to start nationwide consultations on this issue. Should the amendment process succeed, this means that Ugandans will not be in charge of who takes over as the president, but that role shall be left for the ruling party.
Away from that, State Minister for Primary Education Joyce Muriku Kaduchu has said private schools and teachers to get fully licensed and registered with the Ministry of Education and Sports in order to benefit from the COVID-19 relief cash for private school teachers program. We have more on this report.
While addressing journalists at the Government Media Center in Kampala, the State Minister for Primary Education Joyce Muriku Kaduchu said this is the right time for schools and teachers who are not registered with the Ministry of Education and Sports to do so that they can benefit from the COVID relief cash for private school teachers.
Because when the school is not licensed, not known by the Ministry of Education, it will not be part of this program. They will not benefit. So it is a moment for us to open the eyes of the private institutions to be fully registered, fully licensed with the Ministry of Education and Sports.
According to the Ministry of Gender, only registered teachers who are serving in licensed or registered private schools before the lockdown will benefit from the said program. However, teachers who benefited from the June 2021 COVID relief funds will not benefit from this program.
Because those schools are the ones that are going to register them and submit their names, they must have been on the payroll of those schools. We are providing this criteria because we are aware 2 years is a long time. Some teachers have moved on, but we want to give them the benefit of the fact that by the time of the lockdown, they were enrolled, they were registered, and they were on the payroll.
Agred David Chibenge, the Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, emphasized that government-employed teachers are excluded from the said program.
We are aware that some private schools use teachers who are also on the payroll of government. But if such a teacher is registered for this program, he or she will not be eligible the moment that person is on the government payroll. And we're emphasizing this because we know, in spite the lockdowns we've been through, government employees have continued receiving their salaries.
The cash relief program is intended to cater for 300,000 private teachers countrywide, with each teacher receiving 100,000 shillings. The program will also cater for the taxes and withdrawal charges. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Moving on, education institutes have been cautioned not to force students to take COVID-19 tests and also not to obtain any payments directed to conducting COVID-19 tests, since testing is still not mandatory to students as schools resume on the 10th of January 2022. We have more on this report.
In his address to the media today at the Uganda Media Center, the Ministry of Health spokesperson Dr. Dennis Mugimba said that in regard to COVID-19, some schools have exorbitized the appropriate system by charging learners with COVID-19 testing fees, which is against the law, and once any schools are identified in the act, the necessary administrative action shall be taken against the heads of those particular schools. Dr. Dennis Mugimba said that there is no COVID-19 testing required of any learner as a prerequisite for reporting to school on the due date. However, Dr. Mugimba added that, as communicated before by the President, it's important to get learners who are above 18 years vaccinated, and those who didn't have a chance to vaccinate while at home will be vaccinated from respective schools in 3 weeks period prior to official reopening, with the effort from the Ministry of Health and district leaders. Dr. Mugimba alerted heads of schools that it's very important for them to be very mindful of learners with pre-existing health conditions like those living with HIV/AIDS and diabetes, since they need special address. Dr. Mugimba urged all teachers who have not yet vaccinated to coordinate with their particular district authorities to ensure they are vaccinated so they can go back to work.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, Sudanese burned tires as they rally in the capital Khartoum to demand a transition to civilian rule. Thursday's protests are the latest since military chief General Abdel Fattah staged the power grab, now dismantling a precarious power-sharing arrangement between the military and civilians that have been established in the wake of the April 2019 ouster of a long-time autocrat Omar al-Bashir. We have more on this report.
Thousands of Sudanese took to the streets of Khartoum and other cities on Thursday to protest against the military, which led a coup more than 2 months ago, according to witnesses. Sudan's armed forces, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, staged the power grab on October 25th, sparking international condemnation and setting off a wave of demonstrations. The coup, which saw the civilian leadership ousted and detained, derailed a rocky transition towards full democracy that had started after the April 2019 ouster of veteran autocrat Omar al-Bashir. The military takeover, one of several in Sudan's post-independence history, has triggered mass demonstrations and a bloody crackdown that has left at least 57 people dead and hundreds wounded, according to the Independent Doctors Committee. Mojtaba Hussein, a 23-year-old protester in Khartoum, said that their marches will continue until they restore their revolution and their civilian government. Thursday's protests broke out despite heightened security and the closure of main streets leading to the presidential palace and the army headquarters. Demonstrations also erupted in other cities, including Port Sudan in the east, Atbara in north, and Wad Madani in the south, according to witnesses. On Sunday, the post-Bashir civilian leader, Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok, resigned, leaving the military fully in charge.
Moving on, the French government published a decree on Thursday removing the South Africa from its list of locations subject to highly restricted travel rules. Now, South Africans will no longer be barred from entering France. Our reporter has more.
The French government published a decree on Thursday that removed South Africa from the list of places subject to highly restricted travel rules. Travelers who have received the jab will be able to enter the French territory without having to complete a self-isolation period. Those who are unvaccinated must on the contrary quarantine in France for 10 days under supervision from local authorities. France almost completely banned travel to and from South Africa after the first COVID-19 cases involving the Omicron variant were detected in November. The highly contagious variant has since spread around the world, causing record daily cases in the United States and parts of Europe. French Prime Minister Jean Castex said on Thursday that Omicron is now estimated to represent 70% to 80% of all infections in France. France, which has one of Europe's most vaccinated populations, reported more than 300,000 new various cases on Wednesday.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. Moving on, former Nigerian president and ECOWAS mediator Goodluck Jonathan met on Wednesday with members of the military junta that has ruled Mali since toppling its elected president, now Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, in August 2022.
Zaini Mulei Haidara, president of panel of high-level personalities for the national conferences, announced that there are at least 85,000 representatives of the people from the communes to the national level at the conference. He added that it is the voice of the people through those conclusions that they have decided to make known not only at the national level but also the international level. The meeting took place at the military junta is outlining plans for the return to a constitutional order. Initially, the junta announced that they would be holding elections by the end of February 2022. These, however, have been postponed. Abdoulaye Diop, Minister of Foreign Affairs, added that the timetable that has been submitted is a basis for discussion and Mali remains open to dialogue, adding that it is in this spirit that ECOWAS has sent its mediator for discussions with the highest authorities in Mali. At a summit on December 12th, ECOWAS leaders reiterated demands that the elections be held by February 27th as initially planned. The bloc maintained sanctions as asset freezes and travel bans with the ECOWAS region against around 150 junta members and their families.
Moving on, Morocco and China have enhanced their cooperation as they signed on Wednesday the Joint Belt and Road Implementation Plan. Now, when implemented, the deal should see the two nations create joint ventures in the energy industry. Our reporter has more.
Nasser Bourita, the Moroccan Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Ning Jisi, Vice Chairman of the Chinese National Commission for Reforms and Development, signed the Joint Belt and Road Implementation Plan on Wednesday. Launched in 2013 under the name One Belt, One Road, the plan aims to facilitate a technological cooperation, facilitate trade, research and technological cooperation, seals a strategic partnership between the two countries. China also vows to encourage Chinese businesses to invest in Morocco while granting funds for large development projects in the African country. Morocco was the first Maghreb country to adhere to the Belt and Road Initiative. The convention signed by Morocco and China also plans to include Africa in order to form a tripartite cooperation in the sector of sustainable development. It is in the continent that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi started on Tuesday, January 4th, his traditional first overseas trip of the year.
Thank you so much, reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, China voiced its opposition to unilateral sanctions on Eritrea during a visit on Wednesday by its foreign minister to the Horn of Africa nation. Now, the United States slapped sanctions on Eritrea last year over the brutal conflict in neighboring Ethiopia, a move Asmara branded illicit and immoral. We have more on this report.
Eritrean and Ethiopian forces have been accused of carrying out rape and massacres in the war-hit northern region of Tigray, and Washington has repeatedly urged Asmara to withdraw its troops. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi held talks with President Isaias Afwerki and Foreign Minister Osman Saleh on Wednesday on the first leg of a three-nation African tour. In a joint statement by the two foreign ministers, both sides agreed to uphold the common values of peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy and freedom for all mankind, and oppose hegemonic interferences in the internal affairs of other countries under the pretext of democracy and human rights. Wang's trip to Eritrea, one of the world's most closed-off countries, will be followed by visits to Kenya and the Comoros. To the dismay of the West, China has ramped up its involvement in Africa in its search for resources and has embarked on an infrastructure building blitz under the so-called Belt and Road Investment Strategy. China is the continent's largest trading partner, with direct trade worth over $200 billion in 2019, according to official Chinese figures. Eritrea in November joined several dozen other African nations in signing up to the Belt and Road Initiative.
Now let's turn your attention to our health news today. The Prime Minister of Cape Verde said on Wednesday that at least 5 members of the government have been infected with the coronavirus and that his office is practically at a standstill due to positive cases among staff members. We have more on this report.
The Prime Minister of Cape Verde, Ulysses Correa a Silva, said that his office is practically at a standstill at the moment and is affecting security people, health professionals, which is where the action is much more complicated. For the Prime Minister, the fewer doctors and nurses the country has available, the more difficult the health system's response system will become, not only to deal with COVID-19 related issues, but also to treat other diseases, namely in the emergency service. In his communication, Ulysses Correa a Silva announced the hiring of more nurses and, like the president, called for a closing of ranks to fight the new coronavirus. The country has seen a spike in coronavirus cases, recording 1,025 positive on Tuesday alone as the Omicron variant spreads on the archipelago. Cape Verde last week cancelled New Year festivities and introduced a raft of measures for restaurants and public transport to stem a rise in the cases. The country is one of the most vaccinated on the continent, with up to 70% of the eligible population having received a second dose of the COVID vaccine.
In our sports news today, the Africa Cup of Nations will begin in Cameroon on Sunday, 9th January. Now, among the 6 stadiums that will host the matches of the competition, the Stadium of Limbe, where Group F will evolve, is located in the southwest region. Our reporter has more.
At the countdown to the opening ceremony of the 33rd edition of the African Cup of Nations continues, Cameroon mobilizes large numbers of security forces to ensure security. The Southwest region is one of the 2 English-speaking territories in the country. Since 2017, the Anglophone regions are torn by a conflict opposing separatists and the army. To ensure no separatist attack threats, the games of Tunisia, Mali, Mauritania and Gambia, which form Group F, the military and security forces, have been posted in the region. If separatists have called for a shutdown in the city during the tournament, the African Cup of Nations is a long-awaited event for the football-loving country. Bafoussam, Douala, Garoua, Limbe, Olembe and Yaoundé, the 6 host cities, are all adorned with flags of different delegations taking part in the competition. In Douala, the economic capital of the country, everything is ready. Security crews have even been increased in the airport area and along the main roads. All this is done for the football lovers to peacefully enjoy the tournament.
Well, thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.